Hey everyone, welcome to Game Plan, a podcast by Bezier Games where we keep you up to date with all of our latest news and announcements and give you a look behind the scenes of our games. Today we're actually interviewing Jeremie Kletzkine, the designer of Webbased. How are you doing, Jeremie?
Hi, how are you, Phoebe?
I'm great. Thanks so much for being here today. Tell us a bit, first of all, about yourself and your history as a game designer.
Okay, so I'm actually a new game designer. I started to design games just a couple of years ago. I'm located in Tel Aviv, in Israel, but I do have a French accent. I was born in Paris, so you'll find that in the background. So I designed a couple of games. I'm originally a video game player, and I worked in the video game industry, and I come from the video games. But I was always frustrated because creating video games, it's huge budgets and it's not possible to become easily a game designer in this field. So I decided, and I came up with a lot of ideas, and I'm a fan of board games for many, many years. I do have like 400 games in my collection, which is not bad. So I came up with a couple of ideas, and I understood that my ideas are quite popular around me. I went to Essen for the first time to the Spiele Essen in Germany 4 years ago, and I became a game designer from that day because I managed to convince the first publisher to publish my game. So I do today have 7 games that are either published or on their way to be published, and my latest one is Werebeasts, and it's very, very exciting to finally, I would say, because for me it's like a huge achievement to be able to collaborate with such an amazing publisher.
So would you say the main inspiration behind you getting into game design was just being a board game player and being a fan of the hobby?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm more like a frustrated gamer. It may not be very romantic, but I don't feel that I am very creative or that I do have a lot of imagination to create games. It's more into I feel more like a product guy that like a lot of games, and when I see games that are great, however see some problems that I would like to fix. And I start thinking about new way to play the games and maybe new elements and new experiences that needs to be added. And at some point, I imagine new games. So I always start with my experience as a player, and I always base my inspirations on existing games and great game designers that are already published.
And what would you say are your favorite games to play, or your favorite genre? I know you've obviously designing Werebeasts, which is a social deduction game, and you've mentioned that you've designed a few others in that type. Is that your favorite type of game to play?
Well, it's like food. You cannot really compare your favorite entree and your main course and your dessert. So I do like to play different games. Depends on the people I have around the table, mostly. So I play a lot of different games. I play German Euro games a lot. I play party games. I play social deduction games and hidden identity games, which I love a lot. But I do believe that it depends on the situation, how much time you have, what's the atmosphere on the table, and I think that there's a lot to enjoy in many, many different games. If the game is good, if the people are great, then the game is just a platform for interactions, and many different types of games are in my test. I may, area control games and war games are less of my type of games, let's say, but many others are.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to be the same. I used to, love Euro games pretty much. I'd only play Euro games. And then as I started playing more and more games, I realized, everything has something different to offer. It's just finding the best games of each type. So yeah, I play pretty much everything as well myself now. I think it's a good way to be.
I completely agree. This is an entire world, and we don't need to choose one category. We need to enjoy, all of available games. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so can you tell us a little bit about Webbased and how the game works and a little bit of the inspiration behind it as well?
Yes, definitely. Webbased, let's not hide that. I love a lot the One Night series, and that started there. That started by I I play a lot of Werewolf as well, the original Werewolf, the long, and in this game you have this very central mechanic of this original Werewolf is to communicate with the people sitting next to you. It's something very central in the game, because when you're the seer, then you need to be able to somehow leverage the information that you gather about the people around you. And at some point, as I said, I started to identify a couple of things that I wanted to fix in order for me to improve my own experience in the game. The interesting, the first inspiration for Webbased was, what if I share an information with my neighbor, but this information is relevant for all the players around the table? So I know a lot of games that you play with, we have specific interactions with your neighbors, like in Between Cities or Seven Wonders. But in all of those games, mostly it's you play with the players sitting next to you. But it's not like you having something to share, and that then you're using it in front of with the team. In the Werewolf, you have different. In all of the werewolves games, it's the villagers against the werewolves. In these games, it's more you and your neighbors around against the rest of the table. So you do have a team, a temporary team play, but however, you're playing alone against everyone. But so this is the kind of balance that I was looking for originally when I came up with the idea for Webbased.
So how long ago did you start working on this design?
I started to work on this design probably like a year and a half ago. I mean, my cycles are always the same. I only fly to one convention. That could change now, okay? Because I have more games on the market and more exciting things happening, so I will attend more conventions. But I usually, until now, only been attending the Spiele Essen, the Essen in Germany, and then so my cycles were always the same. Before Essen, like 3 or 4 months before, I had to have a game ready. So after Essen, I started to work on a new game around April, which Essen is usually in October. So around April, I do have like a working prototype that is starting to be tested. And over the summer, I got it like very. So it depends. But it's always 1 year cycles for all of my games. My objective is to find someone to work with at Essen. Until now, it was like that.
And has the design changed a lot since you first started working on it?
So yeah, so of course, when you start to interact with a publisher and that is very professional, knows their audience and know the needs and etc., then you get feedback that are very relevant. And in my interaction with Bezier and with Ted and so I got like a lot of inputs that were very relevant, and the game was a bit changed. I would say that over time a bit of salt and pepper was added, but the base mechanic, the basic mechanic remains exactly the same. We just have like some few ideas that were added about how to add a bit more spice to the atmosphere. And also, the combination to make the game work for 3 players, which was a big challenge that I didn't really manage to solve earlier. With the help of the team at Bezier, we managed to create something that is really, really decent.
Yeah, and one of the core things in Webbased is obviously the beasts themselves, which is super cool, cute or horrifying, depending on how you look at them. Yes. And the goal of the game is you're trying to collect different types of werebeasts. So can you tell us a little bit about how the gameplay works?
Yes, of course. So you do have a secret goal that you share with each of your neighbors, so 2 different secret goals. And your objective is to alternatively sell beasts to other people around the table and buy from them the beasts. So there is a short, very tight economy in the game with the were show, which is the currency, and you need to. So you still the villagers are part of the game. So So the objective is to collect cards, but make sure that the rest of the table, the people that do not share this secret with you, won't know which beast you're collecting. Because if they guess and accuse you on collecting one specific beast, you are eliminated. So usually the eliminations comes really late in the game, okay, just in the last rounds usually. But if you're really too obvious, you can be spotted very easily. And so your team play with your neighbors is how to collect cards without uncovering your neighbors, because whatever goal you have, one of your neighbors has the same. So the whole game is about understanding what is happening around the table, making sure people don't understand what you're trying to do, but still at the end of the game manage to gather more points than the others, more well shows. Yeah.
And so obviously you can't accuse someone of having collecting a type of werebeast if that's the one you share with them. So you're trying to see what. Because that's kind of a team goal, but you're trying to call everyone else out on their other goals.
Of course, but your neighbors do have a goal that you don't know about, and you can accuse them about that. And accusing your neighbors about the second goal can be a very good strategy, because then there is more of your beast for you, because he will not try to. So your neighbors are friends at some point, because you need to make sure to work together, not to uncover your secret. But on the other hand, kicking them out from the game is a very good idea because it leaves more cards for you to be bought.
And how many? You mentioned it works with 3, and it goes up to 10 players.
Yes, it goes up to 10 players. There's a lot of action around the table, a lot of beasts to be. But of course, there are always more beasts than secrets. So the odds of guessing someone without really knowing the truth is very dangerous. I do not recommend. But yes, the game works. So for less players, you do not share the secret cards. You do, but this works for less players. It's a bit a different experience.
So there's a whole range of werebeasts for everyone to collect. So there's were-nanas, were-ghosts, were-zombies, all kinds of weird and wonderful creatures in the game. Do you have a favorite?
I do have some favorites. You must know that some of probably my favorite one, I'm not even sure that it will ever make it in the game. maybe at some point with a Kickstarter expansion, because it's quite extreme. But I really love the were-kitten, because it's having the idea of a were-kitten is something that connects to real reality. We we know that kittens are probably have a great potential of being. All of them have a great potential to be were-kittens. So no, anyway, so I do like all of them. All of them, I think they do have some interesting. Personality, and I think it adds a lot to the game and to the fun of the game to imagine all of these beasts, in action.
I think possibly my favorite is the Werebeasts, just because it's so ridiculous.
I completely agree. It's probably the most useful of them, the one that has a functionality actually, but still, I know it's really ridiculous.
I don't know if you'd want to get inside it to have to drive it, though. I'd be worried about it eating me. So the other thing I wanted to ask you is there are obviously a lot of different social deduction, bluffing, hidden goal style games that are out there. What do you think makes Webbased unique as a game?
So I think that in many of those games you do have like this element of the learning curve of the game. I think Webbased is interesting in a way that when you're playing for the first time, you still feel comfortable with your choices. You feel comfortable of where you're standing. So I think Webbased is a very good game for starters, for people who are not really used and a bit afraid of these void that social deduction games are offering, but and also of course these mechanics of having a very small economy and connected with a team play that is dynamic. I think it's really something that is unique. The way that you're like, yeah, playing with your neighbors, but and you're playing with them, but you're not playing with them. And I would say, like, also a last point that is really central is the balance. We are all equal. I mean, in many cases, in the games where you're getting when you're getting a secret identity or role, it's asymmetrical. And in this game, we are all like starting at the same position, same status, more or less. We do have like different goals, but all of them are, are quite equal. It's quite an equal situation. So that's, I think, quite unique and well balanced. I believe, it was my objective.
What's the best experience you've had playing the game? Have you had something particularly memorable, or I guess your favorite moment when you've been playtesting or playing it with people?
Yes, what I like to do is to play social deduction games in general with kids. And when you play this game with kids, you got like really, really surprising reactions, because the way kids are bluffing, of course, is a bit different, and the way this so it's interesting because it's much more it's much more dangerous. Every word you say, everything you do, you have to. So I really, really like to play this game with kids. I do have like 2 boys. The younger one is a bit too young. He's 5, so it's not really he's not really managing to play the game. But my older one is 8, and it's perfectly helping me to to understand how kids can play those games. So I think my best experiences were to be outsmarted by my own kids.
I've had a lot of experience playing, Werewords and One Night Alien with kids at conventions. So, at Origins and Dice Towercon, we would have people come by the booth and play.
Yeah.
And it's they're so crafty sometimes. They make some really cool moves and really cool players, and it's just fun to watch them figuring out the game. So it's good to see that Werebeasts has that same kind of dynamic as well for the whole family. Yeah.
I do believe so, yes.
Well, that's Werebeasts. So anyone who's interested in checking it out, keep your eyes peeled for the Kickstarter on September 5th. We'll be going live. You can back it there, read more information, and see all of the were creatures. But for now, let's talk a little bit about other social deduction and bluffing games that we enjoy playing. So as I said, there's a lot of them out there, a whole range of, short games, long games, ones that are completely bluffing, like Werewolf, or ones with just a little bit of it thrown in. So what are some of your favorites, Jeremie?
So I do have a lot of favorites. It's a very hard question because all of them, they have some aspects that I really love. Of course, there's one game that I designed called Millions of Dollars. That is pure social deduction game. I don't know if you have the opportunity to play it, but it's a game I love to play myself. But let's not talk about my own game. Although I play it a lot. There is one game that is probably standing out. It's Spyfall. I do have very tenderness for this game, a lot of tenderness for this game, because it's a game that in a situation where it creates some very unique atmosphere, and it's so easy to explain the rules, like 2 sentences. And then, so we can later talk about it a bit, but it is really the kind of aspects I'm looking, the kind of very special experience that I'm looking for when I'm designing games. So Spyfall is really, really a game I like. I like Coup, of course. Coup, I think today it's a landmark game in this category. I think there is a lot of unique scenarios that can happen in this game, and I also like the fact that people can. There are some peaks of adrenalines, because in One Night or in Webbased or all the others, when you're lying for the entire game. When for Coup, you have like a small, you're lying once, and you like hoping that they won't catch you, and then it's the end of your turn, and you're good. And that's a small peak of adrenaline that I think quite unique in this game. So I like this game a lot. I like, of course, Citadels. Citadels, I don't know if you remember the year it was released in 2000. It's like 17 years ago. It's crazy.
I really enjoy Citadels. I remember when I played it, must have played it first when I was 8 or 9, something like that. I was very young, and I didn't understand exactly how the bluffing works. So I would pick the king every time, and then everyone just started assassinating me for the whole game until I realized that I had to change roles.
Yes, and more than just Citadels, it's Bruno Feduti. He did also Masquerade, and he did more in this category. And I'm coming, as I said, from the European school, the French school. People like Bruno Catala and Bruno Feduti and Antoine Boza, and the way they design games, it's always amazing. And Citadels has it all, and it was just such revolution back then. I mean, we had no games in this category besides Mafia and Werewolf, but Citadels really created something in my. So there were more games, of course, that also were interesting, but Citadels for me was really a first time experience. And maybe, of course, let's talk about Werewolf. I do. Still, I play a lot with the regular Werewolf. Like, we meet with friends all the time. So I'm playing at least once a month. I play Werewolf with people. We are like a small community in the high-tech industry in Israel, and a lot of startups and entrepreneurs and investors and people in this small community are meeting once a month. Actually a bit less than a month, full moons, and we were playing Werewolf, and I shaped my strategies, and we know each other so well, and so it's still this game, the original Werewolf with like 25 people is a game I still play really on a regular basis. So of course I cannot list those games, those social deduction games, without mentioning Werewolf.
Yeah, well, Werewolf is it's a lot of fun when you really know the people you're playing with as well. I've played a few times with strangers, and it's not quite as good because you don't know the people. You can't figure out if they're bluffing or if you just can't. It's hard to get a read on someone when you're playing a game with them for the first time. But when you're playing with your best friends and your partners and things like that, it really shines, I think.
Yes, of course, people and your friends, they are the first elements of a successful experience.
Well, for anyone who doesn't know Spyfall, who's listening, it's a very simple premise of a social deduction game. You have cards handed out at the beginning of each round. There'll be one spy, and everyone else will be given a location card, and the spy will just have a card that says spy. And you go around asking questions, and the spy is trying to figure out what location they're at, and all of the other people are trying to figure out who the spy is. And it's really interesting because the question can be absolutely anything you want it to be, because you're trying to subtly give clues about who you are without giving it away to the spy about where you are. So it's a really interesting dynamic.
Yes, the basic dynamics is amazing. All of the surrounding, the framework of the game, the winning conditions and the timing and everything is a bit like clumsy. But the game itself is so good that you just don't care and have a lot of fun.
It's always scary when I'm playing Spyfall and I get the spy, because I feel like a spotlight's on me. It's really intimidating to be like, oh no, what if someone asks me a question first? You never want to get asked a question first. But there's a game I really like, a social deduction game, which has a bit of that problem, but it's far less intimidating for me when I'm actually the trader. And it's called A Fake Artist Goes to New York. And this is a drawing social deduction game. So how it works is someone will be like a GM who'll run the round, and they will name a category, and then they'll give everyone but one person a little slate that has a word in that category. So say the category is animals. Everyone but one person will get a word. So maybe the word is lion within animals. But one person won't get to know that word. All they'll know is it's an animal. And then one at a time, everyone goes around in a circle drawing one line on a piece of paper. And they're all trying to draw this image, let people know that they're drawing this image, but not give away what it is to the spy. And the spy is obviously trying to figure out what the heck everyone else is drawing while this is all going on. So it's not too intimidating if you're the spy. It's definitely, you've got a moment of like, oh, what do I do? but it's a lot easier to explain away your mistakes or justify them than if you're put on the spot as the spy in Spyfall.
Mm-hmm. It's a similar mechanics, yes.
Yeah, but that's one of my favorite ones. I also played recently Not Alone by Stronghold Games, which is an absolutely incredible bluffing game. So it's the basic premise is you've got one person playing as the alien, and everyone else has crash landed on this planet, and they're trying to escape from the alien. They're trying to avoid being eaten, being killed. And each round they will choose different locations to go to, and each location will have a different action, but the alien can go to different locations as well and activate cards, take their health, take their abilities and things like that. And so it's this whole double bluffing of the alien figure out where you're going, and you trying to figure out where the alien thinks you're going somewhere else. And it's a really tight, tense bluffing game, which I enjoy a lot.
Yes. I wish I didn't manage to find a copy of Not Alone. It's out of stock everywhere. So I hope I'll be able to catch this game, but it's definitely on my wish list right now.
It's interesting to see all the different types of games that are in that category, and what you can do with just a very simple mechanic, just as simple as bluffing, the different kinds of experiences you can create for players as well.
Yes, I do believe that this will discover many more games, and there's a lot of room for creation in this area.
What do you think is your favorite part about social deduction games? I know there's, as we said, a lot of different types, but there's still kind of a common thread between all of them. So what do you enjoy about them?
Well, playing a lot of different kind of games, the pleasure that you get is different from every game. But the social deduction games, the pleasure, you get it from other people. I mean, you get it not because you win or you lose against them, but because you discover a new facet of someone you thought you knew, or because you're surprised by their reaction. And sometimes even when you play with your own family or friends like forever, and they manage to fool you, they manage to outsmart you, they manage to surprise you, and that's only in this kind of games that you got that. I mean, it's you do have, like, you can be surprised about the fact that a player managed to calculate something specifically, or to anticipate something, or to think about something before you did. But the pure, face-to-face, one-on-one deception is done in. I mean, it's very differently in the social deduction games, and that's really something I love. I love to be able to discover the personality of people, especially the people, of course, I love and I know and I like and I want to spend my time with. So definitely, it's the aspect that I love the most.
Yeah, the interaction between players is great to see in those games. Because I manage the social media accounts for Bezier games, so obviously I see people, sending us photos of them playing werewolf and one night werewolf and regular werewolf and werewords now, and just you can see on their faces in those photos just the moments of those moments of surprise and those moments of despair as they've been fooled and things like that. It's really fun to see.
Yeah, it's the meta game. The game became like an excuse for the people to unleash their own personalities, and that's really yes, it's something unique.
Is there anything you dislike about social deduction games?
Yeah, there is one condition. It's very easy to ruin a social deduction game when you have one player that doesn't want to play or doesn't want to win. If in order to enjoy these games, you have to want to win. You have to want to win. You have to work out for that. You have to be engaged and motivated. And we all have friends of different with different moods, and these games are a bit sensitive to players that are not really engaged the same as others. So this is something that it's a weakness of those games. It's not always possible to play these games with people, with groups of people when you have 1, 2, or 3 people that are really not into being proactive or fighting their way to victory. and they want like square rules that to follow. I've been designing a game actually that I don't even think that one day it will be published, because I understood that it was not possible to make it a commercial to make a commercial game out of it, because it's so much dependent on proactiveness of players. It was so intense that a player that would not be that engaged would ruin the full experience. So this is something. It's a weakness, I think, in these games. But of course, when you play with the right people, and when you play with people who are willing to win, then there's nothing better.
One of the other things I find is that because I play with so many different groups of people all the time, I'll often have, a core group of 2 or 3 people who know all the games really well. But then when you're introducing new players into especially social deduction games where regular players know the metagame and know a lot of the techniques and the strategies, the new players can really struggle to get a foothold.
Yes. I agree. This is something that also stands out in these games.
But they're definitely great for getting people together.
Of course, I think it's the basis. I played a lot of video games, and I do have but the best experiences that I had were playing Wine Night, or were playing Spyfall, and were playing those games, and Werewolf, of course, and those are I think at the top of the excitement in the group today.
Well, I used to play a lot of video games as well, and ever since they've stopped doing as much split screen, and it's been less of a group activity where people would come over and you'd all play games together. Board games have really replaced that experience for me. It's more about getting people together than actually playing the game.
Believe it or not, on my TV right now I have a Super Nintendo with 4 controllers and Super Bomberman 2, which was the best, and it's always ready for me to play with my kids or my friends, and it's 4 players. And yes, I agree with you that we are missing those games, and we need to to use old consoles in order to play them. So yeah, I agree. I do have a lot of them. I have 40 plus retro consoles. Board games, it's not my only crazy collection. That's also that's also the kind of fun we want to share with our friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jeremie, for joining us today and talking about Werebeasts and social deduction games as well. It's been great having you on the podcast.
Thank you very much for hosting. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and it was a lot of fun. I'm not used to this exercise, but whenever you you invite me, I'll come. And more than that, I'm really excited by this Kickstarter. That's the first time I'm involved in somehow. I'm in such adventure, and I think we'll have a lot of fun. So thank you.
Well, for anyone who wants to check out Webbased, again, the Kickstarter begins on September 5th, next Tuesday. So it's very soon. We'll be sending out, links on social media, on our email contact list and everything, so you can subscribe to keep up to date. And if you want to send us any questions at Bezier Games, you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, email us, info@beziergames.com. And thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you, Phoebe.